Hi, welcome to Gary's Garage. So today we're working on a Mercedes. This is actually my first time working on a Mercedes. This is an SL, it's a 1982 SL. This is a German car. This is a 500 SL, and it has the V8 engine. And what we're doing today is obviously it's a 40-year-old plus car. We're replacing the valve cover gaskets. To do this, I've removed the air cleaner, I've removed the battery, I've removed the spark plug wires, and I've marked them to make sure I know where they go back. And I removed the breather pipe off there, and I've taken one of the mounts for the air cleaner off. On this side there's a front breather pipe. You got to be careful of this stuff because this is very old rubber hose, and I've taken spark plugs out here. This can be a little tight with the fuel lines in here. Might have to undo these fuel lines to get it off. So here we go. Let's see. We'll set it up and let's see what we can do here. Now, before I take these screws out, I want to get a feel of how tight they are. And I don't know if you can see, I'm just using a screwdriver. This is just like beep, that's it. So because the torque recommendation is very low for these, they are at risk of becoming loose, and so there's no, sorry you can't see that one, but there's no need for any heavy tools here. So and there's only 4 screws holding the valve cover on, so let's get these off and let's see what's inside. Now these bolts that hold the valve cover on are pretty long, so I recommend using a magnet so as not to drop them like I did with the first one. And there's a lot of thread into the head, so it's you want to back them off quite a bit before they're loose. There we go. Valve cover is going to fall right off here. And now there's a little wiggling involved. I may need to use 2 hands because I've got to deal with the transmission filler here, and or dipstick, sorry, and so I'm going to need both hands. So I'll show you when I get her off. So here's the inside of the valve cover. For a car that's 41 years old, this is actually pretty good. This is only going to take a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to use a lint-free cloth here just to get an idea of what we're up against. And you can see this, these deposits are coming off very easy. There's no sludge in this engine whatsoever. It means it's been the oil has been cared for properly over its life. This is great news. Let's take a look in the inside the valve train. Alright, so a common problem with these engines is cam oiling. They have this this pipe here, this oiler pipe, and there's plastic caps. This looks like it's on. Let's feel to see if it's on tight. So that's a good sign. But you can see some of the minor scoring on the camshafts here. Well, actually, that's more than minor. The rest of them aren't too bad. Just seems to, well, there's almost looks like a little bit of rust on that back one. This car's done a lot of sitting around, but when you look inside the where the oil galleries are, it drains out, and from the head, it's actually really quite good. There's a little bit of deposit, but this is not bad at all for an engine of this age. And but the valve, sorry, the chains that run the cam are a little loose though, so there might be may be some service work to do there if the owner wants to. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to clean this up and get the new gaskets in place, and we'll be all good. All right, moving to this side, we've got this pipe here that needs to come off, and that's going to be pulled out of the way, but I'm going to have to be careful about this pipe. I'm not too sure if I can get it off without breaking it, or just, I'm hoping I can just move it out of the way, but I got some manipulating to do, because with the fuel lines, this guy here, I think this is the return, I'm not sure, but it is, I can get it loose, but the nut is frozen onto the line, so I can't spin it off. This guy, I've got it a little bit loose. I can get this one off and I'll be able to pull it up. So I can only move this up about 2 inches, and I don't think that's enough. I'll do some measuring on the other side, because it's quite deep from the surface of the head to the top of the oil pipe. That's got to be like 3.5 inches, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to get this up just stretching these up. So I gotta find a workaround. I'm hoping I'm going to get lucky. The other thing I've had to do is take the vacuum line for the booster out, and I've just used a rubber plug to plug it off. So I'm going to work on this, and then I'll give you an update. I've got the other valve cover off, and I've cleaned it up, and it's in the sun drying here, but it's looking pretty good. I think we'll be able to just do a little final clean up with brake clean and a clean rag, and then we'll be able to put that back on. So here we go. Alright guys, well, this valve cover is off. The procedure in this case, too many workarounds. Had to take the one fuel line off, this guy here that goes on the fuel injector pump. The other line, because it's seized on the nut seized on the line, I had to swing it out of the way. To do that, I had to disconnect it from the line coming from the tank. So I got that done, and then I had to loosen all of the 3 of these injector lines on this side of the pump. I've done the preliminary cleaning on the valve cover. This is the second one, but before I put it back on, I've got some 320 grit sandpaper, and if you can see, there's some discoloration in certain spots here, and I'm not too sure, but I think there's a little bit of corrosion. And if any of the scratch lines or the machining lines go from the inside to the out, it's possible for fluid to go that way. So all the scratch line, if someone's cleaned this, you know, they've done it on a flat table or whatever, but they haven't gone parallel. So you need to go sort of parallel to the edge to get a flat surface. That way oil won't migrate from the inside to the outside. So I'm going to go over all of this edge on the valve cover here and then I'll clean it up again, do the final clean with brake clean, get any debris that's got on in there, and then we'll put the gasket on and put it back on. Here it is, all cleaned up, and I've got most of the lines out. Couldn't get them all out, but by going parallel to the edge, and there's still a few, but I think it should be okay. It's nice and clean, about as good as it can get for this age, this type of casting. And let's get that gasket on and get it on. So here's the genuine Mercedes-Benz gasket. There's the part number. 13, you change it to a 14 and then do the passenger side. This is for the driver's side, and let's get that on. So only goes on one way. There are two different gaskets, left and right. There's a groove on it, and that fits over the edge. And it'll be hard for me to do this while I'm filming, but you know, you just push it on, and obviously don't damage it, but it's a pretty rugged gasket material. Feels like rubber, but I'm not too sure what it is. That doesn't specify. But this is, you put it on with no sealant, just dry. It's captive, and although it has, as you wrestle it on, it may come off, and then it's a real bugger to put back on. Well, I'll get this finished and I'll show you. So just to show you guys, while this was sitting here, while I was cleaning up the head surface, the gasket has pulled itself off and pushed it back down. So this is a problem with this style of gaskets, because it's slightly shorter, so it's under some tension as it's on, which I'm sure helps, but you got to be really careful to make sure that these stay on. If for any reason they come off, you either have to refit them or remove the valve cover again, refit them, and put it back on until you get it sitting just perfect. All right, let's see if we can put this thing back on the car. So I've cleaned all the mating surfaces, and because there's no gasket material, no glue or silicone on this, it's pretty easy to do. Now, to get this in here is a little bit of a deal here, because you kind of have to pull this hose up a bit and get this gasket in. There's a little like lifting eye there, so it takes two hands. I can't really show you. I'll try and set the camera right here. Probably not going to be able to see, but just a little tilt up, and that's in. Slowly get this down, and now that it's down, I'm going to take the light and inspect the gasket all the way around to make sure that it hasn't got out of the groove. I may not be able to show you back at the back there. Maybe you can see better than I can. I'm just going to check everything before I put the bolts in. Here's the setup to get at that back bolt on the valve cover here. I can turn this in by hand, and I've got the pry bar to keep the hose out of the way. I'll do this when I'm torquing. I decided on about 3.5 Newton meters, which is the minimum setting of my low torque wrench. Okay, so there we go. So there's the lowest setting, 3.6 Newton meters, which is 32 inch-pounds of torque. And I've set them all, but when you do this, because it's so low and it's a rubber type gasket, the gas is going to compress. So you go back, give it a couple of minutes to set, and go back and make sure that they're fully seated. And I'll go to the other side, which has been sitting for an hour or so, and see what happens here. Oh, that's staying in. We're good. Okay, there's some of these are a little bit trickier to get to, but yeah, no, we're all good. So I'm gonna put the vacuum line, fuel lines back together, and the crankcase breather hose back on, and then I'll do a wrap up with you guys. Okay. Well, there she is, all buttoned back up again. The valve cover gaskets installed. All the fuel lines are back on. The crankcase ventilation hoses, and I'm not too sure these ventilating hoses that go around the fuel injectors. I can only guess that they're designed to take in any dripping that may happen at the fuel injectors, and then takes that vapor and pulls it into the intake. So that's my guess. As I said, this is the first time I've worked on one of these, and there's a few places that need attention, because rubber hoses just don't last. Some of them are quite hard and brittle, so we've been able to get through the job without breaking anything, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be sorted out, I think, on the long term. But there it is. So we're going to start it back up and see if there's any leaks. Okay, there we are. There we go, start right up. It was missing because we had some of the fuel lines on one side of the engine open, so there would have been air in there. So that's just going to take a while to get out. Doesn't sound terribly healthy. But it is running. And before we send this back away, we're going to change the oil, so I don't want to get too hot, but I want to run it just a little bit. Well, it's running. The oil that dripped out when we took the covers off down onto the exhaust is burning off. That's what the smoke is. That's to be expected. So far I don't see any fuel leaks. I may have to take the valve cover, or sorry, the air cleaner off. Take a look. See that there's one of the spark plug leads is failing. It's jumped in the ground, which explains why it's running poorly. Well, thanks for watching Gary's Garage. We really do appreciate you coming out. Hope you learned a little bit from that valve cover job and valve cover gasket job, sorry. And if you like what you see, please subscribe, or if you like the video, please press like, or I appreciate any comments or any questions you may have. I'll do my best to answer. Thanks for watching Gary's Garage.